Okay, welcome everyone to our February DSWSC meeting. If this is your first time here or you've been here for a while, we are so happy to have you. This month, we have some faculty members who are here doing a faculty forum to discuss the concentrations in our program so that you can learn more about the tracks and what is up ahead. I want to give a heads up as well. Next month is March. It is National Social Worker Month, so we're hoping to do a couple of additional things as well, but you can go ahead and put the last Thursday of March on your calendar. That's our typical meeting date. To reserve that for our March event from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The DSWSC is the doctoral social work student community. So we are here for you guys. So I'm going to introduce myself and then our other leaders before we jump into the meeting. And we want to make sure that you all know that we are here for you. We plan these events based around what students are asking, what students are wanting. If you've got questions, you've got concerns, you don't know where to go. We may not know, but we are here to help you and we can figure that out together. So my name is Jessie Pablo. I am the president of the DSWSC. I am in the 3-year program. I am about a year and a half way in, so I'll be graduating the summer of 2026. And I have no idea what my concentration is going to be, so I am super pumped for tonight to hopefully help me narrow that down. I'll open it up to my other leaders to share.
Sure. I'm Kevin Durant. I am the member and networking chair. I can never really remember what the order is on that. I am from Boston, Mass. Originally. I live in Rhode Island. I'm on a journey in the program, and I'm taking 4 years. I'm going to graduate in 2027 with part-time students that started this last fall, and I am definitely planning to look at the administrative leadership track for concentration.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Mallory Nunez. I am the secretary for the DSWSC. And I am not sure about my concentration yet. I'm in the full-time program. This semester after it's over, will be a year, but I'm leaning towards education or clinical track.
Thank you. We also have Olandry Joy Barnes. She is our vice president, and Deja Williams is our social justice chair. So we are your leaders. I want to go ahead and introduce our speakers. We have Dr. Loper, who is here, and she's going to be specifically discussing military behavioral health and admin and leadership. Dr. Lamosa is here and we'll be discussing the clinical concentration, and Dr. Wetmer is here discussing the education concentration. And when I say that, all 3 of you can feel free to throw out any other information as well. After they talk, we will be breaking out into breakout groups that you will all be able to self-select yourself into. When those open up, they are labeled with the faculty members' names and then those kind of concentration tracks, so you can kind of see where you may like to go. So when I gave that clarification, that's kind of how we're dividing those breakout groups for Q&A later. And then before they start, we like to have we have an email distribution list that we can connect with students to get you information maybe easier than everybody who's not on social media or don't follow that closely, and then easier than we do. Dr. ER does push announcements through Canva, but if you can please put your email address in the chat. If you did that the last meeting and you got an email from us, you shouldn't need to do that again. But if you can please throw that in the chat so that we can add you on the list. And then Kevin promises not to spam
Actually,
you.
I have a Google form, and I will pop the link in the chat. And if you want to fill out the
Perfect.
Google form, that would be a lot easier because then it's in a spreadsheet for us.
Thank you. And then there is one question already. I do believe you can move between breakout groups. I'm not totally sure, but I think I have it set up that you can go back to the main group and then rejoin. So, okay, I will let our faculty take over. And then whenever you feel like it's time to move to breakout groups, just let me know and we'll make those live. Thank you.
You
Hi,
need something?
everybody. Good evening.
You
This
need
is
something, baby? Yeah, but
someone might be unmuted. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Lamosa. I've met some of you, not all of you. I just want to say thank you to Jesse. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for reaching out. And I don't know whose idea it was to have this panel, but it's a brilliant idea. And I think it's great. And hopefully you guys can get some good information about the tracks. My question is to you, Jesse, are you going to be keeping score? Because this is full-on competition because, you know, between Dr. Loper, Dr. Whitmer, and myself, we're going to try to convince everybody to come to our chosen, you know, concentration. And I'm going to win. I know I am, but I want to give them a fighting chance. So if you want to keep score, that's fine. But, you know, I'm just saying.
Since I have 2 concentrations, I think I'm going to win, but that's just me.
That's very unfair, and I will complain to Dr. ER about that later, just so you know. And Dr. Whitmore is everybody's favorite, so you know, this is definitely not a fair competition. So I don't know what to do here. So I guess how do we start? Do we just talk about the concentrations? Does anybody want to pose a question first, or?
I am an overachiever as always, so I put together a little PowerPoint.
Of course you did. Of course you did. This is why she's everybody's favorite professor. Okay, I'm done.
So if I'm allowed to share my screen, I can start with the social work education track.
You should be able to share now. Thank you.
Great. Yep. All right. Let me toggle and go back. Can we all see this? Thumbs up? Excellent. All right. So today we're going to dive into the social work education concentration within our program. Since many of you are interested in teaching at the higher education level, this pathway is designed to prepare you for that role by focusing on scholarship of teaching and learning, curriculum development, and critical issues in social work education. I'm going to drop a link for the PDF of this PPT into the chat when I'm done, the PowerPoint when I'm done, so you'll be able to have it if you want it. So the key takeaways are that the social work education concentration is designed to prepare students for teaching roles in higher education with a focus on inclusive pedagogy, curriculum design, and scholarship. The program emphasizes practical skills like syllabus development, teaching philosophy statements, and engaged scholarship. Students will lead the program with a portfolio of work that supports their career goals, whether in teaching, research, or leadership. I have everything for puns, so all of my icons are dogs except for this one, because this is a bird's eye view. It's an overview. Okay, anyway. The purpose of the concentration is designed to prepare social work educators who can advance the profession through effective teaching, curriculum design, and scholarship.
I know.
It's about equipping you with the tools to foster inclusivity, integrate critical perspectives, and address systemic issues in social work education. Some of the key themes that are covered in the concentration courses. So the 3 concentration courses are teaching and learning for social work educators, which is 875. That focuses on pedagogy, curriculum design, and inclusive teaching practices. Then there's social work 876, which is critical issues in social work education that addresses contemporary challenges in social work education, such as decolonizing the curriculum, power dynamics in academia, and online education.
Anytime a call comes across that I don't know.
And then we
Yeah.
have, I'm sorry, is
gets-
somebody speaking?
Traffic.
If you're
Somebody's not muted.
could you
Yeah.
please mute yourself? Thank you. I'm deaf, so you know, I mean, like we're working. I'm like, I think I'm hearing voices. So, and finally, 877, which is Engaged Scholarship in Social Work Education, that emphasizes the scholarship of teaching and learning, which is we'll talk more about that in a second. So, the key components of the pathway. It's a coursework, so 875 focuses on teaching philosophies, syllabus development, and aligning curriculum and with DSWE competencies. Social work 876 explores critical issues like equity, inclusion, and the political nature of social work education, which is especially essential today. 877 centers on engaged scholarship and helps you develop a scholarship of teaching and learning agenda that will prepare you for conference presentations or publications. Your major teach assignments and outcomes. You'll come through the social work education track. You'll come out with a teaching philosophy statement, which is important if you are looking for education, for jobs in higher education. Everybody wants a teaching philosophy statement, so we'll help you write that. You're going to have some curriculum design. You have an opportunity to create syllabi curriculum matrices that align with DSWE standards. You're going to write conceptual papers on the systematic literature review to help contribute to the knowledge in the field. And you're going to also do some podcasts and presentations and engage in innovative ways to share knowledge, like creating podcasts or presenting at conferences. So the connection to your career goals, teaching in higher education. So this concentration is ideal for those who want to teach in DSW or MSW programs or DSW programs. You'll gain hands-on experience in curriculum design, learn how to engage students through inclusive practices, and develop a portfolio of scholarly work that can support your job applications. Scholarship and leadership. So beyond teaching, this concentration prepares you to be a leader in social work education. You'll be equipped to address critical issues, advocate for equity, and contribute to the scholarship of teaching and learning. Are there any questions for me? I'm going to look in the chat and see if there are any questions for me particularly. Can we have the required reading list for all of the concentrations? That is something that you can probably talk to Dr. ER about. I'm sure she would be happy to pass that along to you. Are there any other questions for me? Okay, these are my references. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and drop the PDF of that PowerPoint into the chat if anybody would like to take a look at it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wetmer. Whoever wants to be the second favorite professor can go next.
I'm not following that, Dr. Loper. You go.
I was actually hoping that you would follow that because I'm guessing that both Dr. Lamosa and I are not as prepared as Dr. Whitmer, who was a last minute fill-in and then had time to still do a presentation. So we kind of suck. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm just gonna briefly go over the two that I was asked to speak about, and then I think when we break into groups, if you guys have specific questions about the concentration, that kind of thing, maybe that would be a good time to answer some of those. So in terms of the military behavioral health concentration, that program is specifically designed for individuals who are interested in working with the military population or the veteran population. And it gives you a general knowledge, obviously, of trauma treatment, trauma assessments, working on trauma-informed practices, because Naturally, you can probably imagine that a large portion of those that you might work with would be someone who has suffered with some type of trauma. It hopefully prepares you also to have some general knowledge of military etiquette, protocol, language, some of those things that maybe as a mental health clinician out in the civilian community, you don't necessarily have some of those exposures. Although I will say that a large portion of both active duty military and veterans are going into community care because there's limitations in access currently at most locations. So the coursework for military behavioral health is 873, which is neuroscience. Social work 881, which is trauma-informed assessment and diagnosis, and then social work 882, which is evidence-based method for common military behavioral health diagnosis. So that would be more related to PTSD, anxiety disorders, and such. So again, I also think that this concentration could be helpful if you're interested in working with military families and having a general understanding of what the active duty or the veteran may be going through. So anyway, I guess I'll answer questions kind of if you come into the breakout or you have some, and then I'll go on to the administration and leadership track. I think Dr. ER asked me to speak about this one mainly because I was a student myself in that track when I came through the program versus that I teach in that one because I don't, but let me tell you this. Okay, so administration and leadership, primarily focused on, I would say, more macro work or policy work that if you're kind of looking towards doing that. Individuals who might be interested in running your own agency, learning about leadership styles, clinical supervision, how to provide effective supervision to individuals. And so I know personally my reason for that, although I was a military social worker, still work for the military now as a civilian, so long as I have my job. But anyhow, the main reason I think I chose that versus military behavioral health, and I guess I'm saying this because I know some of you have a military background. I personally thought I worked in military behavioral health for 20 plus years. I'm not sure how much concentration would help me at that point. Likely I'd had a lot of the trainings and necessary information. So that was really why I selected a different track. And personally, I was very interested in trying to work more on policy and at a higher level, if you will, than as a clinician working in a clinic. So for me, that was kind of why I chose that. The administration and leadership track, you would be taking social work 862, which is effective engagement, organizations, and community. So learning how to engage with community partners and establish those relationships. The other course would be 863, Advanced Administration and Supervision Practice. And again, I think I shared this with you earlier. Some of the material in that course is really designed to teach you how to be an effective leader as well as supervising other individuals. And then the third concentration course would be 861, which is Business and Technology and Social Work Practice. And so I think kind of like Dr. Wetmer was talking about learning how to do podcasts and various other things, this particular course is really related to the use of technology, how to, in essence, potentially work in a business and have some business acumen, being able to talk to business leaders, and that type of thing as part of the leadership portion of that. You know, if you decided that that was a route for you, you know, if you were running your own agency, nonprofit, whatever it is that you chose to do, learning how to connect as a business person, which I think in social work, you know, we talk about like the human connection with people and connecting, and showing empathy and all those kind of things. And that in business can be very different. I'm sure you could probably all imagine, where we're talking about money and bottom lines and funding and those kind of things. So anyway, that's all I have with my lack of a PowerPoint. So I think Dr. Lamosa can go next.
I've decided I'm going to do interpretive dance. You guys ready? No.
How
Okay.
about a drum circle? We could.
We should have better prepared. Okay, so let's talk about the clinical social work concentration. I'm going to start with a misconception about that track. A major misconception about this track is that if you are already a clinical social worker, then this track is not for you. That is not true. That is not true. The things that you learn in this track can not only supplement your overall knowledge and understanding of clinical social work practice, but actually gives you also leadership skills that are designed to be integrated with your clinical knowledge. So the clinical track is not meant to replace your CEs, your certifications, or prepare you for licensure or anything like that. It is in fact designed with experienced clinicians in mind, folks that have experience in clinical settings and want to further develop specific skills that can help them maybe be, for example, a team lead or a senior clinician, or a clinical director, right? Because you have those advanced clinical skills, but also leadership and skills and whatnot, all the things that go with it. So the concentration courses for the clinical social work track are neuroscience, which is the same one as in military behavioral health. So in clinical, you have neuroscience for social work practice as well. And this is where you go into, excuse me, this is where you go more in depth into lifespan development, attachment theory, trauma, addictions, mental health disorders, and also cover some psychoactive medications, how they impact the brain. You talk about, for example, links between childhood abuse or adverse events in childhood and how they impact brain development and how that's going to trickle down into potentially mental health conditions later in life. But you're doing all of this not from a theoretical perspective, which you learned in your MSW or you learned in your CE course, but you're looking at all of this from a neuroscience perspective. So it really goes in depth into, you know, what are the parts of the brain that are associated with this? If you have frontal lobe damage due to a TBI, what sorts of behavioral and personality changes can you expect in clients? You know, what types of treatment are best for brains that had impaired development due to substance misuse in adolescence, right? All those different types of things. The second one is clinical praxis theory, which is 872. So clinical praxis is the place where theory and practice meet and one informs the other. So you move away again from that conceptual understanding of theories and talk about practical applications of those theories and how they inform interventions with different groups, families, individuals, client systems. And you talk about how some of those clinical theories used in social work can help you to assess needs, engage clients, engage communities, approach therapeutic relationships and whatnot. But again, you're taking You're taking theory and taking a much deeper dive. So think about a development or a theory that you really, really enjoy, that you maybe use in your clinical practice, and you're going to take a much, much deeper dive into that theory, for example. And then the third course is in the clinical social work concentration is advanced psychopathology and psychopharmacology. Again, if you're a clinical practitioner, you will have, some knowledge of psychopathology and pharmacology. Maybe you work with a multidisciplinary team, you work with prescribers, right? Nurse practitioners, psychiatric nurse practitioners. So you might have a decent idea depending on your setting. This just takes you into a deeper dive again. What are the medication-related concerns for clients and families? How do you identify those concerns? What are some of the effective interventions? What is your understanding of the role of the biopsychosocial implications on the individual when it's coupled with pharmaceutical interventions, for example? So you look at these complex client presentations and try to make better sense of it through the coursework. So those are the three courses in the clinical. Again, advanced psychopathology and psychopharmacology, clinical praxis theory, and neuroscience for clinical practice. So when you look at these three concentration courses together, you can see how they sort of supplement and complement each other. So some of the really interesting capstone topics that students have developed are looking at specific populations and effectiveness of psychopharmacology treatment or lack thereof. They look at different ways of doing assessments using social work theory, biopsychosocial approaches to better understand assessments of symptoms and needs in marginalized communities, treatment plan development, new types of treatments using what's considered alternative interventions like nutrition, supplements, and things like that, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, self-care. So students have been super creative with their capstone projects. It's really, really cool. And plot twist, we're launching a new concentration. Dun, dun, dun. It's going to be available, I believe, in the fall, but we are about to be the very first DSW program in the nation to offer a sports social work concentration, which is so exciting. So let's talk about the courses. I have to read this because I don't know them like off the top of my head. So the concentrations will be neuroscience for clinical practice, of course, right? You're going to be exploring things like TCE and traumatic brain injury from sports practices. You're going to talk about the mentality of the athlete and what motivates them. You're going to understand athletic behavior from a biopsychosocial perspective. Like all those things are super exciting. You're going to take neuroscience for clinical practice, then sports, social work theory and policy. This one is intended to advance your knowledge in athletics as it relates to the athletic journey to effectively promote the safety and well-being of athletes, advocate for athletes' rights, and ensure athletes receive the recognition and the help needed to become strong global leaders. I mean, I think this is especially relevant nowadays with these conversations about gender expression and gender identity in sports. There's going to be a lot to talk about in these courses. The coursework will cover social work theories, conceptual frameworks and models, and perspectives in sport, health and well-being factors facing athletes, strategies for engaging and assessing athletes' needs from a systemic perspective, which includes policy and rights, and then analysis and development of sports social work policy. So that's that second concentration course. And then the third one is sports social work in practice settings, where you are using grounded, the course content is grounded in critical positive youth development and experiential learning theory. Focuses on how to promote healthy youth development through sports, recreations, adventure-based activities, and so on and so forth. It uses an ecological and developmental systems perspective to understand how individuals' assets, family units, peer relations, school systems, yada, 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 come together to support development of youth. If you have any, if you're a school social worker, or you have any interest in developing a wellness sports program in your community, this is the track for you. Also for at the collegiate level, the University of our College of Social Work has a sports social work research lab. And so people in this track will have access and exposure to research that's happening right now, like real-time actual research with Dr. Tarkenton in the sports social work lab at the college. So very exciting stuff.
I would like to, Dr. Lamosa, if you wouldn't mind, just answer a couple of questions that I think are in the chat. So I think the only class, I could be wrong, I think in your I can't speak to all concentrations as to whether or not they have quizzes or not, because I'm not familiar with all of them. So I don't really want to say that. I know personally when I did the administration track, leadership administration track, the only class I had quizzes in was statistics. So, okay, there's that. The other thing is, I think folks are asking about group projects. I need y'all to know that you're going to have a group project in every class. So if you don't like group projects, you might want to drop out. I don't know, because you're going to have one in every class. That is intentional. It truly is intentional. Because this is an online program, this is a way for you to engage with your peers, but also to continue that scholarly work. And when you do a lot of that scholarly work, you're going to be doing that work with other people. And so it's important for you to have the skills to do that. So for those of you who like to be Lone Rangers, please consider that this is meant to maybe test you a little bit, but it is intentional. And so you will have group projects in every class. That's not going to go away. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew those things, because I saw those as questions.
Yeah.
So
there are quizzes in neuroscience 873. There are quizzes in neuroscience, and they are very short, like 5 questions sort of thing. They're not timed, and they're when you look at how the grade breakdown and what the quiz actually is, it's more to test your knowledge than it is to it's fine, people. It's okay. It's okay.
yeah, I saw somebody who said it was in fun. I know it was likely in fun, but I've had so many students ask. So I think there are some of you who are concerned about those group projects. And frankly, that's probably the thing as an instructor that I get the most complaints about is the group projects. So I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I do. So
Yes, thank you so much for asking, for answering those questions. There was one also that has come up, Dr. Lamosa. For students who are moving into their concentration year, like starting this summer, you mentioned it starts in the fall. So for those moving into their concentration year this summer, is it eligible for those students or only the next round?
I'm gonna say probably not, but don't quote me on that, please. That's a question that I'm happy to get clarification from Dr. ER and then connect back with you, Jesse, and you can send the word out.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Also, a reminder for everyone, Dr. ER, I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but check your announcements because she's having 2 general open office hours as Q&A for this, so that would be a good opportunity to talk to her about that. And then for those who are moving into your concentration year, she also put out an announcement. Make sure you check your student email because there will be a survey coming out where you have to declare. So make sure you're checking your emails and connecting with Dr. ER for that. So Mallory?
There was another question in the chat from Leslie if the capstone project has to relate to the chosen concentration.
Yes,
I'm
it-
happy to speak to that too, because personally, I've had some students who kind of shifted their focus and have had to kind of ask those questions. So it really should relate to your concentration. And maybe it's not as tight as what you might imagine, but it does. I mean, that's the whole purpose really of the concentration, is to do some scholarly work in that particular area. So what I would say, I don't know about Dr. Lamosa or Dr. Wetmer, but I think when we are looking at, I know one of the courses that I teach is the has one of the capstone items in it. And so it is important for you to try to loosely tie it to your concentration. So
And there
I
are
don't know
ways
if you
to
guys.
go about it. Like I'm a graduate from the program myself. I did the education track. And my capstone was about social justice informed clinical supervision. Should that have been the clinical track? Could have been in the administration and leadership one too, because I'm talking about supervision. But I tailored my work to really highlight supervision in field placement. So that's how I was able to spin it. My passion was in talking about supervision. Field placement supervision was only a part of that, but I just tailored my capstone to meet the requirements of my concentration course. We've had students in the leadership track talk about clinical topics, but they were talking about it from a leadership perspective in terms of developing clinical programs to meet the needs of marginalized communities. So they were talking about the clinical needs and the clinical approaches. They develop a whole clinical framework, but they were also talking about how this program can be developed, how it can be funded, what are the policies and procedures for it, and so on and so forth. So there are plenty of opportunities to take what you're passionate about and kind of add layers to it to be able to fit within the parameters of your concentration. And your mentor is your go-to person for that. Book those meetings and go have conversations until you feel confident.
Yeah, I would say, personally, I also did a topic that could have fell into the military behavioral health arena because I was talking about active duty suicides. But my focus was more on the risk and protective factors and how command and the leadership teams themselves can have an impact on reduction of suicide and suicide risk factors. So mine was more related to policy, if you will, but still with a military focus.
Okay, thank you so much. I am going to open the breakout room so that you can go to those. And then faculty who are in those, feel free to stay around as long as you are comfortable and available. They will not